The afternoon sun beat down on the asphalt of Interstate 45. The heat waves shimmered off the road, creating a mirage-like effect that made the distant horizon seem to dance. It was a typical summer day in Texas, where the sun's relentless rays could make even the most mundane tasks feel like a challenge. Traffic flowed smoothly, a typical Houston workday winding down. Commuters were eager to get home, their cars moving in a steady rhythm, like a well-rehearsed symphony. The hum of engines and the occasional honk of a horn were the soundtrack of the city, a familiar tune that played every day. Officer Daniel Ramirez, a 5-year veteran of the force, began his shift like any other. He donned his uniform with practiced ease, the badge gleaming on his chest, a symbol of his commitment to serve and protect. As he slid into his patrol car, he mentally prepared for the day ahead, knowing that in his line of work, anything could happen. He patrolled his usual route, a familiar stretch of highway he knew like the back of his hand. Every curve, every exit, every mile marker was etched into his memory. It was a route he had driven countless times, yet he never let his guard down. Vigilance was key in his profession. Suddenly, a silver sedan caught his eye. It stood out amidst the sea of vehicles, not because of its color or make, but because of the way it moved. There was something off, something that set off his instincts. The car was weaving slightly, crossing the lane markers. It was a subtle movement, one that might have gone unnoticed by an untrained eye. But Ramirez was trained to notice the little things, the small details that could mean the difference between safety and danger. It wasn't much, but enough for a seasoned officer like Ramirez to take notice. His years of experience had taught him that even the smallest signs could indicate a bigger problem. He watched the car closely, his senses on high alert. He switched on his lights and pulled the car over. The flashing red and blue lights cut through the afternoon haze, signaling to the driver to stop. As he approached the vehicle, he ran through the possible scenarios in his mind, ready for whatever might come next. What started as a routine traffic stop, however, would soon spiral into a life-or-death struggle. The tension in the air was palpable, a stark contrast to the calm that had preceded it. Ramirez knew that in moments like these, every second counted, and he braced himself for the unexpected. Marcus Johnson, the driver of the silver sedan, pulled over to the shoulder. He was visibly nervous, his hands shaking as he fumbled for his license and registration. Officer Ramirez approached the car cautiously, his hand resting on his holster as a matter of procedure. Johnson's voice trembled as he spoke, his anxiety palpable. He apologized for weaving, claiming he was just tired from a long day. Officer Ramirez, however, noticed something else. There was a faint smell of marijuana emanating from the car. The situation, though seemingly routine, was beginning to feel different. Officer Ramirez asked Johnson to step out of the car. This is when the encounter took a turn. Johnson hesitated, then complied, but his movements were jerky and unpredictable. As Ramirez reached for his arm, Johnson spun around, a look of panic in his eyes. A struggle ensued, a blur of motion on the side of the busy highway. The two men grappled, their bodies colliding with the force of desperation. It was a fight for control, a struggle for dominance in a situation that was quickly spiraling out of control. In the chaos and confusion, Johnson made a move that would seal his fate. He lunged for Officer Ramirez's gun, his fingers wrapping around the cold steel. The struggle intensified, the two men locked in a life-or-death battle on the asphalt. A single gunshot pierced the air, echoing through the afternoon quiet. Time seemed to stand still as the sound reverberated, a stark punctuation mark in the unfolding drama. More shots followed, the sound deafening, the impact unimaginable. The scene that greeted responding officers was chaotic. Johnson lay motionless on the ground, a crimson stain spreading on his shirt. Officer Ramirez, visibly shaken but physically unharmed, stood with his gun still drawn. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the heavy weight of the situation. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. Marcus Johnson was pronounced dead at the scene. The highway, now a crime scene, was shut down as investigators swarmed the area. The investigation into the officer-involved shooting was underway. Section 6. Houston reacts, outrage and calls for justice. News of the shooting spread like wildfire, igniting a firestorm of emotions across Houston. The incident quickly became the focal point of conversations in homes, workplaces, and public spaces. People from all walks of life found themselves grappling with the gravity of the situation. The city, still grappling with its own history of racial tension and police brutality, found itself once again at a crossroads. This wasn't just another news story. It was a painful reminder of the deep-seated issues that had plagued the community for decades. The echoes of past injustices reverberated through the streets, amplifying the collective outcry. Protests erupted, fueled by anger and grief. The streets were filled with chants demanding justice, and the air was thick with a palpable sense of urgency. People of all ages and backgrounds came together, united by a shared sense of purpose and a desire for change. The protests were not just about this one incident. They were about a long history of perceived injustices and a call for systemic reform. Johnson's family, devastated and outraged, demanded answers. They stood before the cameras, their faces etched with pain and determination, pleading for transparency and accountability. Their voices, though trembling with emotion, carried the weight of a community's anguish. They wanted justice for their son, a young man whose life had been cut tragically short. The memorials and vigils held in his honor were somber gatherings, filled with tears, prayers, and a collective resolve to seek justice. The community rallied around the family, offering support and solidarity in their time of unimaginable grief. The community, divided and hurting, sought clarity and accountability. Town halls and community meetings became forums for heated discussions and passionate debates. People voiced their fears, frustrations, and hopes, seeking a path forward that would bring healing and justice. The question on everyone's mind was the same. Was this another case of excessive force or a justified act of self-defense? The community demanded a thorough investigation, one that would leave no stone unturned. They wanted to know the truth, and they wanted assurances that justice would be served no matter where the evidence led. The tension between the need for law and order and the demand for justice created a complex and emotionally charged atmosphere, one that would require careful navigation in the days and weeks to come. Section 7. The Blue Line and the Community Bridging the Divide. The shooting of Marcus Johnson served as a stark reminder of the often strained relationship between law enforcement and the communities they serve. It highlighted the deep-seated mistrust, the fear, and the anger that can simmer beneath the surface. In the aftermath of the tragedy, a dialogue began to emerge. Community leaders, activists, and law enforcement officials came together, seeking common ground and understanding. They recognized the need for greater transparency, for accountability, and for a renewed commitment to building trust. Section 8. The Weight of the Badge. A deeper look at police work. The badge, a symbol of authority and service, carries with it a weight that is often unseen by the public. It represents not just the power to enforce the law, but also the responsibility to protect and serve the community. The encounter on Interstate 45 also shed light on the immense pressure and danger faced by law enforcement officers every day. These officers are constantly navigating high-stress situations where the stakes are incredibly high. The flashing lights and sirens are not just tools of the trade, they are signals of the urgency and gravity of their work. It highlighted the split-second decisions they are often forced to make, decisions that can have life-altering consequences. In those critical moments, there is no room for hesitation. Every action, every choice, is scrutinized and can be the difference between life and death. The training and instincts of these officers are put to the ultimate test. Officer Ramirez, forever marked by the events of that day, became a symbol of the complexities of policing. His story is a poignant reminder of the human side of law enforcement. Behind the uniform is a person who faces the same fears, doubts, and challenges as anyone else. The emotional and psychological toll of the job is immense, and it is a burden that officers carry with them long after their shift ends. He represented both the courage and dedication of those who put their lives on the line, and the unwavering commitment to their duty. These officers are often the first to respond in times of crisis, providing aid and support to those in need. Their presence is a source of comfort and reassurance to the community, and the potential for human error, for bias, and for the tragic consequences that can unfold in the heat of the moment. The reality of policing is that it is fraught with challenges and complexities. Mistakes can happen, and the repercussions can be devastating. It is a profession that demands not only physical and mental strength, but also a deep sense of empathy and understanding. The weight of the badge is heavy, and it is a burden that officers carry with honor and humility. Section 9. A call for transparency and understanding. The shooting of Marcus Johnson was a tragedy that left no easy answers. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, the complexities of race and policing in America, and the urgent need for dialogue and understanding. As the investigation continues, the hope is that it will bring about not only justice for Marcus Johnson, but also meaningful change. Change that will help bridge the divide between law enforcement and the communities they serve, fostering a future where such tragedies are not repeated.